Hey, welcome back to the most innovative shipping container channel on YouTube. And we've had a serious change in the weather. We're in Wichita, Kansas, and Friday it was 60 degrees and sunny. And today it's like 25 degrees, winds of 10 to 20 miles an hour, gusting to 25, snow flurries. And there's an expression in Kansas that if you don't like the weather, just wait a minute. But I digress. We've got this 53 footer that we are pulling the floor out of. And it's actually not tongue and groove like the last one, which is funny to me because they're the same prefix container and they're the same color and about the same year, but they've got different floor. So this one has your 4x8 sheets of, I'm going to say plywood, but it's more of a hybrid oak, maybe like a white oak. So we've got a couple of these floor panels out now. And so I want to turn around, take a look at those and talk about this a little bit more. And for those of you who missed the last videos on the floor, unfortunately, we have to do this terrible job of removing the floor in these 53-foot containers for the customer because they cannot have any wood in the container by regulation because it's a fire hazard. There's really no debate about it. That's just how things have to be. We've tried to change it. So what they do is have us pull all the floor out and weld stainless thread in place of the wood floor. So let's flip around and take a look at this. So as you can see here, we have the 53 footer on its side, and you can see the floor construction of a 53 is about the same as a 40 footer, but again, it's a little bit different. So you have the same C channels that run the length of the container, but on a 40 foot and 20 foot, they're about 12 inches apart. On this 53 footer, because your floor goes all the way to the very bottom of the C channel of the container, they add more. And I think these 53s are made to disperse the weight a little bit differently. So you have about double the amount of C channels and about double the amount of screws and so on. And so what we've got in the inside, an interesting fact on these 53s is they're 8 feet 6 inches wide. So they're right at the limits of a wide load. 8 feet 7 inches is a wide load. All of your other shipping containers are 8 feet exactly wide. So if you're going to build something out of a 53, you would have not only the extra length, you'd have the extra width, which is where shipping containers are really limited. Unfortunately, 53-foot containers are quite pricey. In our area, with shipping landed, they're about 10 grand for a nice used 53. A new one runs about $20,000 to $25,000. But when you get inside, they're absolutely massive. So as far as the floor, we've got these front two sections out, and getting the screws out, we've been torching. You can see these are torched, and we're torching around the screw, which is not going to diminish the integrity of the C channel. And then we are pounding some of the screws out with a hammer. You see here, this screw is pounded in. And once you pound them, the floor comes out. Another thing with this container being the 53s being 8 feet 6 inches wide, you've got two pieces of 4-foot boards inside. In your other containers, these boards are not 4 feet, they're just a hair under, so they're a little bit oddball. And then you have this channel going down the middle for support. So once we get all the floor out, we're going to run supports welded down the entire length of the container, and then our stainless plate will come this way on top. So once we get all these screws torched and banged out, we just knock the wood out there. And you can see here, it's kind of a kind of a hybrid. I'd like to know what you guys think this is. They call it a marine plywood, and I think they use different styles of wood, but this looks more like a plywood, whereas some of it, let me get another shot here. There's a good shot. It seems to have two layers and then a layer in between and then a top layer as well. So some of this wood we drill through does not have layers like this. So I think they have different wood in many different containers, but I'd like to see what you guys think this is. There's a good shot of it. I did show a piece on an earlier video of, it was a 20-foot one-trip piece of floor that we had out, and it had no layers, so it looked like a solid piece of white oak. From the comments I got, that's kind of what people thought it was. So we're hoping to get the rest of this floor out in the next day or two. The process now is pretty fast. The process we used before was having the container placed normally on the ground, and we were cutting strips with the handheld saw down to the depth of these C channels and then ripping all the floor out that way, which was just a terrible way. So now this is much more ergonomical and it's going much faster. So if you guys got questions on the 53 footers, they're pretty cool. Here's a look inside. Oh, one more thing I was going to say is basically a 53 foot is a 40 foot to these sections right here, and I'll show you the roof. And they add on these two end sections, which are another 6.5 feet on each end for the total of 53. So this center section is basically a 40 foot container that's a little bit wider. If we come around here to the roof, you can see kind of the 40 foot inner portion, and that's for all the jigs in China. Everything's set up to make the 40 footers, and you can see the pocket holes are in from the edge a little bit more, and so those are all standardized to made up with other sizes of containers. But you can see here, basically you've got your 40 foot container with your two end pieces added on to make a 53. And it's the same way they do a 45 footer. They'll take a 45 and they'll add two 2.5 foot sections on the ends. And then the other interesting thing on a 45 foot container is they are 8 feet wide. They are not 8 feet 6 inches wide like the 53. So I hope that kind of is some valuable information for you guys. I actually was not aware 53 was 8 feet 6 inches wide until I think we had one here, or it was on the way here and we were shipping it and realized how wide it was. But these are also interesting to ship if you don't have a container chassis, which if you're trying to ship these from a depot to your location to sell, if you don't have a container chassis, which finding a guy running around with a container chassis that's empty and available to take a load is nearly impossible. You've got to put this on a flatbed and run it over height or oversized, and then it turns into a $4, $5, $6 mile load. So I'd also like to hear your guys' thoughts on that as well. And I'm going to get one more shot of the well on this, or the bottom of the floor. The 53s are the same height exterior wise as your 40 foot high cubes, but they bring the floor all the way to the bottom of the container. A 40 foot high cube, the floor stops right here at the bottom of the corrugation. So in the 53s, they bring it all the way down, then they add more struts horizontally in the container. So I think all that stuff is pretty interesting. So a 53 really is quite a bit different than all your other shipping containers. But the added 6 inches, and when you walk into these containers, the added 6 inches in height from the well being lower and the width just make these things feel massive inside. I mean, just way bigger than a 40 foot. It'd be really cool to build stuff out of these, but like I said, they're just high dollar. You can get two 40 foot used high cubes for less than a 53. So it really just doesn't make sense. But this customer needs that extra 6 inches of width. It's critical to what they're putting in here. So, and we've even got to keep these window frames that we put in tucked away and make them out of 2-inch steel to keep them out of the way of the product that comes in here. So, give us a like and follow. We appreciate the views, and thanks for watching.